It's Tuesday night! That's right, your favorite night of the week. Well, unless you like Mondays better, or Sundays, or Saturdays. But it's in the top 7.
It's so you got Manic Monday. What's Tuesday? Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday, except I didn't have tacos today.
I didn't either.
I
think we discussed that one other time.
I had a salad again. I'm kind of like not very original. It's like
no, but I'm proud of you, John, having a salad.
I do that an awful lot. Lori's like, "What do you? Is that? How can you?" Because she like have a side salad every occasionally, and then that's basically for myself. That's what the main meal is. And she's like, "How do you do that?" And it's like, well, it's that, or you weigh 260 pounds, and I don't care for that part of it. So we'll do the salad thing so.
You know, I was thinking being on the road is tough. You can see there's a hotel room behind me. Last minute trip to Orlando, and here I am. But I was thinking, you know, with all this travel, I didn't make it to the gym this morning, and that makes like 10 years in a row. So.
There we go. So, welcome everyone to our show tonight. It's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe, and tonight's topic we're going to be talking about 10 different things, different tips, ideas, thoughts, things you need to be thinking about when you're looking for your next set of speakers. And Ben has been slaving away, coming up with tips, evaluating.
I did sort of, you know, kind of work it down and say, okay, how do we make this a nice even 10? I thought it was noteworthy, though. I'm sorry, my ADHD kicked in, and I know the viewers are just riveted by our culinary habits. But not only did I not have a salad today and not go to the gym today, but my hotel is quite literally next to a Baskin Robbins.
Oh, nice. But, of course, I'm sure, not going to go and partake of the ice cream because...
Oh no, I already did.
What about your wrestling weight?
You know, I haven't had to make weight since the mid '90s, so
that ship has passed, is what you're saying.
That ship has sailed and sunk. But I did go. Actually, I did get a little exercise today. There's a fun little video up that on Nate Bennett's Facebook that Mark from Eternal posted of Nate and I on an escalator. He wanted to see what all the hype was all about with the escalator ride. So I said, well, come on, get on the escalator, dude. You can try this. And we'll run down the up escalator for, a bit. So, I mean.
High quality Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Right there.
This is the best thing happening on your Tuesday night. You know, look, it's me or the president. When I was a kid, you know, if the president was on, he was on all 3 channels that we got, and your evening was shot. So look at you. You got choices. You got me. So
there you go. You could be watching, but you know, again, you can relive both of them in tweets later. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into our top 10, the 10 tips for picking speakers, and we've talked about speakers, and there's different levels of speakers and different companies out there, and we're not going to be pointing to one or the other as better or worse right now. This is just to give you guys kind of an idea of some things to look for, because every manufacturer I've talked to at NAMM or any of the other shows, Ben, one of the first, they always cringe about that whole, you know, everyone wants to compare wattage thing.
Well, you know, it's interesting that's the first thing we're talking about, because it is, and I'm not joking, it is the last thing on my list.
Exactly. That's one of the points, is that one of the thing that we always are like, oh, how much? I mean, again, I saw somebody the other day who was boasting about, hey, I've got this 10,000 watt speaker.
Only if lightning hits it.
It's like, interesting. Yeah, tell me how that's going to work out.
Yeah, only if lightning hits it, and only for a very short period of time then. So, you know, I mean, the thing is, getting, you know, into the nerdery, and I don't know this for rote, but I'm reasonably certain that 10,000 watts would give you a 40 dB rise, which is only 10 dB more than 1,000 watts would give you. You know, it's the logarithmic raise in power handling dictates that. So the fact is, if you had a 10,000 watt speaker, it's only 10 dB louder than a 1,000 watt speaker of the same sensitivity. In other words, wattage, and we'll get it. See, now we put it last on the list, but we started with it first.
We started with it because that's what everyone else does, and that's where we'll come back to it. But again, as the lesson we'll take from this first part is that whole doubling of the wattage, and that just gives you a little bit more of a bump.
Yeah, you know, it takes, you know, well, we'll get into. I guess I wasn't planning on getting into logarithmic calculations, but why not? I like them, so why not?
Let's pull out the calculator now. We're going to go through the fun part of the show. Now, we enter that in, and the distance. Divide that by, what's the humidity? Okay, now we put that in there, and then, we got to enter in the neighbors are being kind of crotchety too, making noise, and then the answer is...
No, it's much simpler than that. You just take 10 times the log of the power handling, and you can do that on any iPhone. It's got a scientific calculator built, and you don't need to know all that neighbor humidity stuff. So, so if viewers are probably wondering if wattage is the least important, at least in my book, and I don't know that I would rank these in this order, but it is sort of in a preferential order, and I'll explain why it's towards the bottom, if not the bottom of the considerations on my list. So then you would say, well, what's near the top? And again, there isn't a top, but kind of the top half. You sort of clump together. The top 3 or 4 things would be all very important to me.
Sure.
Number one would be frequency response. What frequencies does the loudspeaker reproduce? Am I looking for a sub box? Am I looking for a top box? Am I looking for something to fill a specific purpose? Do I need something that's going to be a full range box? So that's going to be one of my very top considerations is what is the frequency response of this loudspeaker? What frequencies will it accurately reproduce, and how flatly, how evenly? How much is it true to the signal coming in as opposed to how much it colors the sound going out? And one of the things that's really tricky, and we'll get to kind of a callback to this later when we get into manufacturers, is there's an old saying, numbers lie and liars use numbers. And so you have to really understand your spec sheets. More often than not, your good quality loudspeaker manufacturers, almost always really, your good quality loudspeaker manufacturers produce good specs. But marketing finds clever ways to make it hard for you to understand.
It's a good thing we don't know any marketing guys.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know a few that watch the show, in fact, and I'm sure they're signed in right now. Look, somebody started the game, and everybody has to play it now. So it's not like you can really point a finger at any marketing person and say they're the problem. Because they have to play the game that some other speaker company started years ago, and nobody even really knows. But everybody has to play the same game now. You, as a consumer, just have to be a little bit more savvy. You could say that every loudspeaker, every full range loudspeaker is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz frequency response because it reproduces those signals.
Yes.
That's not really accurate because it's going to have a significant roll off on the low end where it's not effectively reproducing anything below 50 anymore. Not to the same degree that it's producing 100, for example. So it's not producing them evenly enough. Thus, you really can't say that it reproduces those frequencies. So that's why manufacturers often have these asterisks in their specifications, and they'll say that, well, this is -3 or this is -10 from the nominal level. And so that's important to just understand what data you're looking at when considering these things. So top of the list, in the top heap would be frequency response.
Now, I've got a question about that. Now, I've looked at the frequency response, and you mentioned that it's flat, and I've seen where they've got basically the from the low frequencies to the high frequencies, and then they have the little kind of a bar going across and down. So you're getting your roll off on the ends and kind of flat across the main part of the sound spectrum. Now, some cabinets say they can go down to, you're seeing it go down to, let's say, 75 dB. And then there's some that will go down to like a 70 dB. That's like you're going from maybe the 12-inch to the 15-inch cabinet in there, that line. Are you going to be able to hear, something going down 5 dB? Will the human ear pick that up, that difference?
Are we talking, you're saying dB, but are you talking frequency?
Frequency, hertz. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So
that's
75 hertz down to... Yeah. So, but if the one cabinet can go down to, and then it has the big roll off at 75 hertz, and the other one goes and has a big roll off at 70 hertz. Am I going to be able to hear a difference between those two cabinets in that frequency range?
It's going to make a meaningful difference. A good sound person would be able to pick that out. It's interesting. I was just at a major pro audio manufacturer, and I was sitting in my chair listening to the speaker demo, and I commented to the guy next to me, And I said, 4K seems a little light. Just 4 kilohertz seems just a little light. And he pulled out an analyzer on his phone. And he says, man, right on. You nailed it. I'm like, well, that's training and practice. So, would somebody sitting there say, boy, this thing doesn't seem like it digs to 70, where the other one, maybe not, but you would probably notice that just in that. I mean, that's a fairly crucial frequency still at 70, for example.
Yeah.
I would want something that would go lower than that, to get some of that, good mid bass, sub bass, if I didn't have a subwoofer.
Sure.
So it's tough to answer. I feel like you might not know exactly what you're missing, but you might feel like it's missing. On the other hand, maybe you wouldn't. I think it's very application specific too.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. I think the trained ear would definitely
that
show up.
wouldn't bother me near as bad as 8 million other things that people do with loudspeakers wrong. I mean, if it just didn't go as deep as I liked, that wouldn't bother me near as much as a frequency that was really out of whack, that was really high or low, something piercing, a lot of 3K coming through or something, would be much more obnoxious to me than a speaker that just didn't go low enough for my liking.
Yeah.
But the short answer is there is a difference. Whether or not it's meaningful is going to be application specific.
Sure. Okay, cool. What's our next one?
Next to me. Let me real quick. Let me just illustrate what I'm talking about. Sorry, viewers, doing this live here. So,
this is the part where we pull out the colored crayons. I like that part. If you guys have got any questions as we're going through here, besides escalator videos, we probably aren't going to cover escalator videos tonight. Those are Facebook Live.
That's right. It's exclusively the domain of Facebook Live. Let's give this a whirl, okay? If you can, is that working?
Yep, we can see it.
All right, so this is my frequency response chart here. So let's say my speaker, it's not flat all the way across. It has a little dip here, and it's a little high here, and a little higher. Totally fictional, by the way. I just made that up.
Yep.
And then let's say, okay, so this is my high frequency, and it makes it most of the way and then drops off. My low frequency starts to lose a little steam about here, and then it kind of tapers down. Well, I could say that it does. This is fictionally 20 to 20K, all right? Let's just say that it does make it all the way to 20 hertz. But reality, it doesn't, because that's so much lower than what it reproduces, say, 100 hertz.
There. Sure.
Right? So the first line I've drawn represents like a minus 3 dB from the average. So the top line is the average, and then minus 3 dB. But if I say that I go with minus 10 dB, then I could say my frequency response is much lower, And both are accurate statements. Just depends on what the qualifier for the data is. So there we can see my lines. If I say this speaker is plus minus 3 dB of nominal, then it stops here. If I say it's 10 dB, then it's here. Ah,
okay, I get you.
So this same speaker could be said that it has a frequency response of 70 or 50, depending on, and that's why you have to understand those specs. If you look into the spec a little bit and say, okay, well, they're being honest, but if I don't know how they're tricking me, not tricking you, that's not the word I want to use, but you know what I mean? The spec is accurate, but it only is meaningful if you understand the fine print, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And most of your good manufacturers very regularly publish that data, and they'll tell you if it's minus 3 or minus 10. Certainly, if it's not published, it would be accessible. Their reps would be able to get you that information. If they kind of go, I don't know,
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah. The big loudspeaker manufacturers, obviously we like Evie. They're a sponsor of the show. A lot of friends in engineering down there. But, the other big loudspeaker companies, JBL, RCF, and all that, they have engineering facilities. They have anechoic chambers. They have good test equipment, and they're able to produce good spec sheets. Some plastic box coming from China, it's the manufacturer, well, the importer in this case, maybe probably has no idea. And I'm not poking fingers at anybody,
right.
But that's just one of those things where they didn't build that speaker, they didn't engineer that speaker, and even if they did, the testing is probably somewhat suspect and probably not very accurate. They don't have the upfront investment in that infrastructure. So, the old adage, you get what you pay for, really kind of applies. But that's later in the list. So,
yeah.
So number two.
So we're 15 minutes in. We've gotten through one.
Well, we're right on schedule.
We're doing great. Did I mention this was a 4-part show?
Yes, it's a mini series. Number 2, coverage pattern. Does the loudspeaker put the sound where I want it? Particularly important with high frequency because we want to directionalize that lower energy sound. Try to make it a little more efficient. It gets harder to directionalize low frequency sound, and so typically we find that the lower frequencies are not directionalized in a box. You can see that in the polar response patterns. Again, good manufacturers will have that data. Subwoofers are rarely directionalized until you use like a cardioid array or something, which we've done some shows on that. Go see those. But anyway, that old adage, point the loud part towards the people. The coverage pattern would be important, So can I get the job done in the area I need to cover with the speaker I need to cover it?
And of course, that would then use the in a spec talking about dispersion, and both the.
Look at this, just showed up. This is when you know you're rolling big. When you
no. Rolling big was when you had that automatic Pepsi machine that delivered that night. That was.
Man, what show was that in? We got to bring that back.
Oh, I don't know. That was a great show.
Yeah, I don't have the automatic dispenser right now.
No, it's too bad that went on strike.
Yes. Those robotic arms are getting harder and harder to keep happening.
Their union contracts just kill us. But yeah, the
appreciate it. Thank you.
Just following in the chat room here.
That's when you're big time, when you can send a text message begging for a soda and it actually shows up.
That's pretty awesome. I'll try that and see if Lori brings out something for me.
Well,
yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I've got the most amazing wife in the world, but she's not here in Orlando. This is, so I'm sure she would happily do it. Maybe not. I don't know. But, but anyway, I've wonderful coworkers too. So
yeah. Don't get me wrong. Lori would do it but the poor woman's got about 10 different things. And I come out here and she's got the children. It's like, I'm not going to throw one more thing on her lap tonight.
Well, I'm also afraid to go on record to say what I think my wife might actually do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we need to go on to a different topic before we both get in trouble.
The show, so I doubt it, but it's possible. Just to see what I'm up to.
3.
Number 3, SPL, which stands for sound pressure level. Which you mentioned dB earlier. That's decibels, which is the unit of measure for sound pressure level, our perceived level of sound. And I think that's important. We've talked about, does it reproduce the frequencies we want? Does it point them in the direction we want? Cover the area, horizontally, vertically, whatever. There's different coverage patterns available. Does it accomplish those? But is it loud enough?
Yeah.
Number 3 has to be, and again, top of that heap is, do I have enough rig for the gig?
Now, where is the SPL? Where is that typically measured? Because if I'm out, is it something where they're measuring it in the middle of my dance floor area, or where are they measuring that number?
Well, when you talk about the client, that gets into more of that subjectivity, and I see another logarithmic calculation coming your way here. Any chance to drop it is a good day.
I'm kind of picking that up here,
Typically, loudspeakers are measured using 1 watt of power, and some viewers are thinking, 1 watt? That's, yes. Believe me, when we circle back to power handling, that's going to make a lot more sense to you. Maybe not. It might be one of those things that sends you to question the cosmos and your existence. But one of those things, once you sort of metabolize it and you get it and it clicks, you say, wow, I guess it really does make sense. Physics is pretty solid, we know about these things like gravitational constants and whatever, and this is another one of those things that we know about, and it's just proven time and time again to be accurate. Anyway, so typically a loudspeaker is measured using 1 watt of power at a distance of 1 meter, 3.28 feet from the loudspeaker. And then we know by this math that we talked about earlier how loud it will get at max power, et cetera, et cetera. And
oh no, we froze up.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yep, we're back.
Oh, we're back.
We're back. So
Too many.
Now we're frozen again. Well, I don't know what's going on.
Are we back?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, viewers.
Yeah.
I broke the internet.
Yeah, at least for a second. So,
Take that, Kardashians.
yeah, see what they can't do that you can do.
I broke the internet. All I had to do is use a physics formula.
Yeah, exactly. You start bringing out the slide rule, and everyone gets this little kind of.
Didn't have to X-ray my butt. I just had to use a physics formula.
There's an image we really didn't need tonight.
Well, isn't that what one of the Kardashians did? Didn't they do an X-ray of her butt or something?
Yeah, but now you got us thinking about you going up an escalator and X-raying your butt.
I think you might be the only one thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's just hope that's the case.
You might be the only one thinking about it. All right. So where did we leave off? So SPL is typically measured at 1 meter, and we have this peak output. Every time we double the distance from the loudspeaker, we're going to lose 6 decibels. That's a known entity on a point source loudspeaker. And so if you say I need to accomplish 85 dB A-weighted on the dance floor, then you can extrapolate what you need to have back at your loudspeaker. Those are just known things,
Mm-hmm.
And in order to keep us on time, I think that's something we could spend a lot more time on.
Yeah, exactly.
There are distance calculators that you can punch in the distance. You can put in the starting loudness and the distance, and it will calculate it for you. I can also give you the formula. It's basically because it's 6 dB instead of 3, like Power Rise, it's 20 log of the distance. And then you subtract that from your, but again, there's calculators.
It sounds like something we should do an actual demonstration on, where we set up a speaker and actually go and do the test with the A weighting at these different distances and really demonstrate that.
It's fascinating because, again, we find out time and time again, as much as we wish physics wasn't true, sometimes it is. And we say, well, I don't understand how this can possibly be. Well, it doesn't matter if you understand it. It just is.
It just is, yeah.
It's on you to understand it. You're not going to bend physics to your will.
Exactly.
You're just going to sooner or later accept that.
You're not a force user. You can't bend reality. Okay, so let's jump on. Let's continue on. We'll get back to the speaker one. I think that's a great demonstration we should do. Add that to our list.
Yeah, it's and I'll tell you, we're talking now 2018, bringing the audio symposium back, and I think that's one of those things too. That obviously we do some awesome things on this show, and I'm super excited to do that show with you, John. But if you really want to take your audio knowledge up, a notch or 10, that's a great place to do it.
For sure.
Just put that in the back of your mind that we are going to bring it back in 2018. Just too busy in 2017. I'm sorry, but we're bringing the lighting symposium and the audio symposium back for 2018. So number 4 on my list is size and weight. It has to get there.
Yeah.
It has to fit there. Now, this is where physics again is somewhat unfriendly. We've made tremendous strides with improvements in the manufacturing of loudspeakers, but sometimes you just need bigger and heavier to accomplish something. But that's why you weigh all these trade-offs. And you say, well, I can't carry that speaker. I can't put it in my vehicle. Therefore, I need to consider that. This is what I need to accomplish. This is the frequency I need to reproduce. This is how loud I need it to be. And this is what I can manage for weight. And you can sort of take all these things and begin to sort of weigh the pros and cons. It allows you to understand the sacrifices you're making. Engineering is always a series of compromises.
Mm-hmm.
You say, well, I need to make it fit. I need to make it under this weight. So what am I giving up to accomplish that? Is it in the frequency response? Is it not as deep? Is it not as rigid a box? I was teasing a DJ friend of mine the other day because he was talking about a speaker being 80 pounds being way too heavy. And he's right. I mean, for his application, and trying to put an 80-pound speaker up on a tripod pole would be very difficult.
Yeah.
But he says, well, 80 pounds, that's just crazy. I said, well, my line array boxes are 100 pounds a piece, and I hang 12 of them at a time. Mm-hmm. Now, it's different, of course, because I'm using a motor to pull them up. But, again, you're just not going to get concert performance out of an 80-pound loudspeaker.
Yeah.
It's just two
different things.
Man, if it could be done, it would be done. semis consume fuel, and the more trucks needs more drivers. And believe me, tour stuff's gotten smaller and lighter too. We're just not crossing into that. You just can't bring a little clock radio size speaker and rock a venue.
Yeah.
Physics wins in the end, always. So, but size and weight, of course, is important. You got to be able to lift it. You got to be able to carry it. Got to be able to fit it into your mode of transport. So that one is an important consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Then number 5, I went with driver specs, and this is a little bit murkier, maybe.
Yeah.
But looking at specs, it can be a little bit more gray. Looking at the individual specs of the drivers inside the box can give us a little bit better indicator as to what this thing is capable of. Larger high-frequency diaphragms and larger throat sizes on high-frequency horns are going to give us, a bit smoother response, maybe a bit louder. If we look at a voice coil in a woofer that's 4 inches, and we look at another woofer that's 2 inches, we can probably bet the 4-inch voice coil is going to prevail. It's a bigger voice coil, and thus, bigger magnet area, more surface area, and all sorts of things. Probably better cooling. Lots of stuff that go into that. We can just sort of look at those overall construction specifications and get a feeling for what we're getting here. Now, that is one area that I see things, where you kind of get sold a little bill of goods, which I guess we're getting to. That's number 8 on my list. We'll get to, but that is one indicator. Questions on that? Or are we okay to move on?
We're good. Yep, they're just the chat room was they're talking about some other stuff right now. So
they're talking about Kardashian's X-ray.
No, well, they're talking about door, because they've been talking about subwoofers, and then they got into the width of doors, and then they were talking about the width of an X-ray room door.
Important consideration. Listen, that's a really good point. Good job, viewers. That's. If it's got to fit through a standard 3.0 door in a venue, that's a really important consideration. Yeah,
3.0 door is a 3-foot wide door, which is 36 inches, as Day and Night mentioned.
There you go. So
you're using construction language there, which a lot of folks are like, what's a 3.0 door?
I am a licensed contractor, as you recall. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I interpret. Sometimes I have to interpret. Sometimes I have to ask questions to get you to say the things.
I appreciate you, John, and the viewers appreciate you.
Okay, we need to keep going, and we don't want to run out of time here on our list.
Oh no, I think we'll be all right.
Okay, good.
I'm just checking my phone's blowing up here, so I'm checking the time and lots of messages. So number 6. I call it the finish, the surface.
Mm-hmm.
What is the surface of the loudspeaker? Is it carpeted? Is it like a truck liner? Kind of a coated surface? How durable is that surface? Things like that. It's a pretty short and sweet one, but that's doesn't make the top half of my list, but it's on my list to say, well, how long is this thing going to hold up, and is it easy to clean? And we affectionately refer to the carpet as rat fur. Is it made of rat fur, or has it got a smooth finish?
And when it comes to the finish, there's cleaning, maintaining, repairing. Is there a way to be able to, that's the rat fur? I've had it where I've hit a speaker and kind of gouged into that and cut the material.
Very tough to fix,
without redoing the whole thing, pretty much.
And of course, back in the day when you and I were gigging in small clubs and things, the smoking was still allowed in bars. And you'd never get it out of that cloth stuff. It stink to this day.
Yeah.
Number 7. Now we're getting into where it's not so much in order of priority. You kind of got the top half and the bottom half. Number 7. Price. Some people say money's not an issue. I don't know those people. I've worked for some really big acts and some really big venues, national championship games. We do military contracting. Price is always an issue. It's always an issue on some level. I've yet to have anybody just say, you know what, spend whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So now again, budget is an individual thing. Budgets vary by the individual, but of course you have to be able to afford it. Now here's a thought on the contrary of that. Again, engineering is a series of compromises. I put price below all those other things because if it doesn't do the job, it doesn't matter what it costs.
Right.
At that point, if you're saying, well, this is what I can afford, I'm willing to overlook all the things it needs to do because it's what I can afford, then at least well, I'm getting what I can afford, even if it doesn't do anything I need it to do. But I've got a thought about buying, though, and I just picked some average numbers because I want viewers to think like business people, and I want you to be successful, and I want you to make money. I mean that sincerely. I want you to run your business like a business so that you can be more profitable at it. So I wrote this down, and I thought, okay, let's just pick some numbers out of a hat. Okay, they are fairly arbitrary. Let's say you spend $1,500 on a pair of loudspeakers.
Okay.
And let's say that you have a gig every other week for an average of 26 gigs a year. Okay, so you use these loudspeakers 26 gigs a year. And let's say that you use the IRS standard depreciation schedule of 5 years for a capital purchase. And so you're going to amortize these speakers over 5 years. Okay? Basically, what I'm saying is you say, I'm going to use these speakers for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, I'm going to declare them worth $0. Now, of course, if you use them longer than 5 years, that's a bonus.
Right.
But in this example, 26 gigs a year for 5 years, and then you throw them away. Not that you would, but you could at that point. They have paid themselves off.
Yeah, basically they've been fully depreciated at that point in time.
Right. Anything you get after that is free money. Anything you sell them for, anything any additional shows you use them for, if you planned on depreciating them to $0 in 5 years. Okay.
And of course, we have to make the statement that you wouldn't sell them after you've depreciated them to $0 without reporting that income to the IRS because, that's just the right thing to do.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. That's, I'm not a tax attorney, but yes. It's not free money. I shouldn't say it's not free money from a income standpoint. It's free money from a depreciation standpoint.
Exactly.
Thank you, John. And disaccused lawyers also thank you.
Exactly.
So here it is. If you take a $1,500 pair of loudspeakers, use them for 26 gigs a year over the course of 5 years, that $1,500 pair of loudspeakers cost you $11.53 a show. Now, I cannot think of anything more important to a DJ show than loudspeakers.
Yep.
Certainly microphone and controller and music, or all those things are equally important, but loudspeakers have to be considered one of the core elemental pieces of the gear of a DJ show.
For sure.
I mean, for example, what happens if you don't have speakers? Game over.
You're just an annoying guy with a lot of lights.
Yeah. Nobody dances to the light show.
Yeah.
Unless you're using a house system, in which case, never mind. So listen, I hope you're charging enough to pay $11.53 a piece for a pair of speakers. I mean, truly, I'm not being facetious at all. I'm saying, listen, when you break it down like that and you say, okay, what can I afford? I would like to think you could afford even $20 or $30 a show for the loudspeakers.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about, $3,000 for a pair of loudspeakers, which is more than the majority of DJs would spend.
Right.
The point is, a quality loudspeaker actually is really affordable. I'm not saying that to get you to buy more, but I'm saying when you think about it in those terms, when you think about what you're asking of that loudspeaker to do and the importance it carries in your show, you should kind of rethink the whole price thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point because a good speaker will last the 5 to 6 years. And, you and I have both owned speakers that we bought when we, couldn't afford anything. And
my first speakers were terrible.
Yeah, and they last for
get it.
Very, very short period of time. It's like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah, I totally get it. I've totally walked that walk, and I know, I don't have endless pockets even now. But I think what I'm trying to do is pass along some of the hard learned lessons. I just did the quick math here. If you have a $500 pair of loudspeakers, that's the same as getting one Starbucks a gig. You should probably put more emphasis on your speakers than you do your coffee. Just saying.
Because the coffee is here today, gone tomorrow.
You don't own it. You just rent it.
You just rent it, and it just pass it on through, baby. Pass it on through.
I bet you at the hotel this soda costs $4, which is more than that. So anyway, price is important, of course. It has to fit your budget. But when you're establishing what your budget is, don't just pick a number out of the hat. Give some thought as to the business of your business. Mm-hmm. Okay, a good quality loudspeaker is going to sound better. It's going to make my reputation better. It's going to be more reliable and last longer. What can I realistically afford to invest in a good pair of loudspeakers that will make me money? Now, that doesn't mean that you should only give your loudspeakers $11.53 a show, because you want to make some profit.
Yeah.
But again, if you're not charging enough, you know what? That's somebody else's show, the charging part. But just think about it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. We are up to 7.
Oh, we're on 8 now.
Oh, we're on 8.
Yeah, where you been?
Back on 6, obviously.
Number 8, brand. I wrestled with this one, but I left it in because I think it is a known. There are, the known brands. We know Evie is going to produce, by and large, good loudspeakers. Really good loudspeakers. We know QSE and JF and FPT are all going to produce good loudspeakers. We can. That doesn't mean that they don't make a lemon. Doesn't mean that once in a while they don't produce something you scratch your head about.
Right.
But their specs are also going to be really meaningful too, and that's where the rubber hits the road. You can look at EV specs for their ZLX, which is the entry level, versus the ETX, and you can see there's a difference. There's meaningful difference, and it's all qualified and documented. So I think when considering loudspeakers, I just think it's important to consider the source. Is this company's primary business making loudspeakers? Do they have engineering resources to produce meaningful specifications? So I think it does matter a little bit. Sometimes you stray too far from home and you're sad you did, So number 9, mounting and rigging. For example, how do I mount this loudspeaker on a pole, or do I need fly points? Yep. Not all loudspeakers are designed to be overhead. They don't necessarily have the internal bracing and other, I see people do really dumb things like just turn eye screws into the side of a wood. Listen, that box was never meant to be hung that way. That's a terrible idea. You're going to kill somebody someday, and I don't want to be around for it.
Yeah.
If you want to hang a loudspeaker, get a loudspeaker that was designed to rig. Many, many, many portable and very affordable loudspeakers have built-in rigging points that are rated. And here again, see number 8, brand and reputation, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to fly a loudspeaker, get a loudspeaker with rigging points. Look at the pole mounting options. So I think that it handles, how easy is it to carry and get up on a stand? Those things are considerations also.
For sure.
Which brings us to number 10. And an early finish. Power handling or wattage. Now, here's why they make my list at all. If I have a passive loudspeaker that I need to power with an amplifier, then I need to know what the power handling is. And I need to pay close attention to that, because I have this initial sensitivity measurement, and I know that every time I double the power from 1 watt to 2 watt, 4 watt, 8 watt, I'm going to gain an additional 3 dB. I know that adding 1,000 watts from 1 watt gains me 30 dB, and 10,000 watts gains me 40 dB. And so that initial sensitivity is important when paired with the power handling to determine how loud the loudspeaker was going to be. And then I can match the amplifier to it. Now, in the case of a powered loudspeaker, where the amplifier is built into the loudspeaker, here's about the only reason that wattage matters to me at all. I got to plug the thing in. How much power do I need from the wall? Watts come from the wall. We don't listen to watts. We don't dance to watts, and our clients aren't buying watts. So in this case, it becomes a very last consideration after all the other things. In fact, if 2 loudspeakers produce equal volume and all other things are equal, frequency response and all those sorts of things, and one has a lower wattage, I would consider it a better loudspeaker because it's more efficient. It's sort of like judging a car based on miles per gallon, you know? Now, again, you have to put all the things into the hopper and consider it all. But that's why wattage, while it's the first thing people talk about, is the last thing on my list. Somebody says, oh, I got a 2,000 watt loudspeaker. Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
Or somebody says, I got a 10,000 watt loudspeaker, you know? At that point, I'd say, well, listen, I got a concert touring line array box that I will take your 10,000 watt loudspeaker and obliterate that thing. And guess what? It ain't 10,000 watts. You know, not one box. In fact, if you were to ask me right now, how many watts is one of my X2 21290 line array modules? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
What you do know, though, is that it can fill the room with the SPL at the level you need it. The clarity is there, the sound quality. I mean, those are the important things. And
I know that I can do a full arena with ZZ Top and rock the crap off of people's faces. You know, it sort of came out wrong, but you know what I mean?
It's that and X-ray butt. So, I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being, you know, power is important because, you know, I have distros and all that sorts of things, but I have the amplifier system as recommended by the manufacturer and the processing, you know, the presets and all that sort of thing. So I never really gave much thought as to what the individual power handling of the box is. Well, it's irrelevant, you know. It's coming off of 4-aught feeders from the distro panel. I got, you know, enough power coming in to run a small city. But the individual power handling of the box was irrelevant in terms of how much loudness I'm going to produce. Yeah. You know. Anyway, so there we go. I'm sure. Hopefully that elicited some questions. Hopefully some viewers kind of said, "Wait, run that by me again."
No, they've been going and talking about some of the different.
I really wish I could read these comments. This sounds more interesting than what I'm.
Yeah, no, they were talking about when you were talking price and such, and they were bouncing some things back and forth there. And they're talking power supply. Somebody brought up a power supply capacitor in.
Sure, good point.
In the amplifiers.
Yeah, once we get into amplifiers, we're sort of straying from loudspeakers, but of course, in the world of powered loudspeakers, the amplifier is in it. You know. I saw something very interesting on the new PreSonus loudspeakers. They use a Class D amplifier on the low frequency, and inexpensive Class D amplifiers are known to have artifacts in the high frequency, and most loudspeaker manufacturers just kind of shrug that off in their cheap loudspeakers. Better and more expensive Class D amplifiers deal with that with filters. What PreSonus did was very interesting to keep the price down. They didn't put a Class D amplifier on the high frequency. They put a Class AB on the high frequency. And, you know, it sounds better than some of the other cheap ones. You don't have those high frequency artifacts. You got a Class D on the bottom end and a Class AB on the top end. Now, if you buy like an EV ETX, hey, they've dealt with that. Man, there's filters are in there. Those things sound fantastic. EKX, they sound amazing. But we're getting to a little higher price class. Yeah. So, yeah, all those things come into play. Power supply, how fast can it recharge the power rails of the amplifier? You know, good things. Hard to pin it down to just 10, but I think this is the kind of, if I say, you know, this is the general top 10 list for picking a loudspeaker, that would be it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. For those of you who are watching, down in the description below, we have a link there to the NLFX Pro website where you can go and check that out. And I've got their full list of their active speakers that they have on the website, so you can go look at that. And if you ever have questions about speakers, well, you could call and talk to Ben, but he's usually busy. Call Katie.
No, I'm not busy. Well, better to send a message.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. Yep, send a message. But if you're looking for
you. Listen, I'm sorry, John. I want to interrupt you to make a point. I'm never too busy for our customers. So, you know, sometimes I might have to say I'll get back to you. I got a whole list of people I'm going to get back to right after this. But don't ever think I'm too busy. Please, always reach out. Yeah, exactly. And the direction I was going, not so much that Ben was too busy but Katie from NLFX Pro, great young lady to talk to, and she will get you hooked up if you're looking for some speakers or anything else. She's a very knowledgeable young lady who has been around the industry for quite a long time. So, Yeah, well said. She's dynamite. If you go into Mobile Beat, you're going to meet her there. Like you said, she works in the industry too. She walks the walk. She's just as passionate about this stuff as you guys, and she really is dynamite. So
Yeah. And then once you've gotten a great deal from Katie, then you can have Ben give you some tech support, and he can explain joules and wattage.
Well, we are a team. I don't know how many people I get into conversations about joules with, but I guess we could get into how you measure amperes and coulombs, and all those sorts of things. But no, listen, we're a team. It's not an either or. It's not a Katie or Ben.
Yeah.
And we're just two of the nearly 30 people at NLFX, all very much a team, and all very excited to work for you and try to make your business more successful and more profitable.
Sounds good. Ben, thank you very much. We're going to wrap things up, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes. We've got Brian Red, myself, and we've got Howie joining us tonight, and we're going to be talking.
All right.
Yeah, we've got a couple of different things, but Howie's got an idea for the mic drop. And this is probably the best solution I've seen so far. So Howie's going to share that with us in tonight's show. It should be pretty good. We're looking forward to it. So thanks, Ben. And thank you guys for watching.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes tonight, gang. Thanks.